Hi everyone. Welcome to my latest series of videos called Complex Things Explained Well, in which I will do my best to give you the tools to make good, sound decisions about your pet's health by describing common pet health conditions the same way that I would describe them to a client in the consult room at my own practice. And before we get into it, please remember to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell notification icon so that you get notifications when new videos are published. And if you'd like to help me decide on which health condition to address next, then please join me on Patreon, because my Patreon supporters do get to vote on which videos I make next. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hi guys, I'm here with Mickey to talk to you guys about how much dogs drool. No, not quite. I'm going to make a video for the dog owners out there. I know most of my stuff is cat-centric, but that's only because cats are awesome. But there's some very important things to talk about with regard to dogs, and particularly adorable little snub-faced cutie dogs like this, like Mickey, who's a little French bulldog. A little French bulldog, yes you are. Now, these guys are adorable. They have a very important feature that we're going to talk about today. Let me swing this little boat around. Mickey, can you sit? Can you sit? Sit and eat. Can you eat? Yeah. Look at our adorable face. Now, that face might be very, very cute, but from an anatomical perspective, it's a little bit of a disaster zone. Because Mickey here, like many other breeds, is brachiocephalic. Brachycephalic is just a way of saying short-faced in Latin, but we like to talk in Latin, right? Latin's pretty cool. So he's a brachycephalic dog breed. What this means is that he's been bred to have a really short nose. Now imagine him with a nose out here, nice long muzzle like a husky or a German shepherd. That is actually what he's meant to be like. That is what his anatomy is set for. But his top jaw is way shorter than it should be. Therefore we get this like adorable, yet anatomically imperfect, snub nose appearance. And look at that face. Look at that face that wants to eat all the treats. Okay, have some more treats. So this causes him some health issues. And we, as vets, call these issues Brachiocephalic Syndrome. So the bones of his face are shorter than they're meant to be, but all the soft tissue structures are normal size. So this little guy's tongue and soft palate, which is a soft part of the roof of your mouth, and turbinates, which are these kind of wrinkly, swirly cartilaginous structures inside the nose, are all basically the same size as they would be if his nose was out here somewhere. And because they have all these structures that are squished into a much smaller space, they're all kind of scrunched up in there. And what this does is it reduces the diameter of his airway, which is not great because you need air. Hear that? You need air. You can't breathe through your ears. If you could breathe through his giant ears, it'd be just fine, but he can't. So his airway is his reduced diameter. And this is really common in boxers and bulldogs and pugs and Frenchies and Boston Terriers. All of these brachiocephalic dogs suffer from a significant reduction in airway diameter, which means they have to work really, really hard to breathe. And this is really, really sad. Most of these dogs are born essentially needing surgery. And it is very unfortunate that not all of them receive it. One thing worth mentioning is that if you do have one of these short-faced breeds, aside from surgery, which we're going to talk about in a moment, one really important thing you can do to make their life better and keep their airways open is to keep them slender. We don't want them getting too chunky, because what happens is as you gain body fat, some of it gets deposited around your back of your throat and your airways. So if you already have a smaller airway and then you get obese, you're going to essentially reduce your airway diameter because everything gets a little plump back there. So whenever you have this breed of dog, I mean, keeping dogs skinny is generally a very good idea, but whenever you have this kind of breed of dog, particularly if they're prone to snoring and you haven't done the airway surgery yet, you definitely want to keep them on the slender side. And even if they don't need surgery, they may start needing it if they get really fat and then their airways swell down if they're kind of marginal. So sit. Can you sit for me? Yes, you can. So yeah, it's really important to keep them on the slender side of normal, even more than usual. The initial abnormalities that you're born with are a very narrow nostril. So his nostrils are actually pretty good, but they're often born with very narrow nostrils called stenotic nares. They often have excess turbinates inside their nose, and they have a long, soft palate. That's what you're born with. And then if you go through many, many years of struggling to breathe and creating a negative pressure in your airways because you're struggling to breathe, you often get secondary problems. You can get edema of your larynx, which is your voice box. You can get your trachea, which is held open by stiff cartilaginous rings, can start collapsing and narrowing the airway further. And you can get inverted laryngeal saccules, which is basically, if you think about where humans have tonsils, dogs have these little saccules. They'll basically get pulled out into the airway and again can reduce the airway diameter even further. All of this is just a fancy way of saying is that they're born struggling to breathe and it just gets tougher as they age because of degenerative changes. So what can we do? Well, we could stop breeding these dogs. That's a kettle of fish I'm not even going to touch right now. But once they're born like this, what we can do is we can surgically open up the airway. And the earlier we do this in life, the better it is for the dogs, because then they don't suffer all the secondary negative effects of having a short face. So typically we recommend doing this during their spay or neuter procedure because they're going to be under anesthesia anyways. Might as well just fix the airways, which seems like really makes sense to me, but you know, it costs money and people worry about stuff. So not all these dogs get this done. And we're going to illustrate for you an example of the airway surgery. Not a Mickey here, because he's actually doing pretty well. And not all dogs with this conformation need the surgery. Some are born a little snub-nosed, but still kind of okay. So it really is a clinical judgment call that your veterinarian can make for you. Some of these dogs can actually have a really nice quality of life and do fine. Some of them really, really, really suffer and really need surgery. And it's just really sad doing that surgery at the age of 6 when you have all sorts of secondary complications and the dog has never breathed a proper breath in its life. So if your dog needs a surgery, it's much better to do it when they're like 8, 12 weeks old, getting their spay and neuter done. And that way they get to go through life with nice open airways, comfortable and being able to breathe, which quite frankly is something we all have a right to. And so the surgery, there's a couple different surgeries we can do for these guys. Oh, Mickey, come back here. I don't want to be talking without your beautiful face to hide behind. Yes, you're beautiful, yes. You just want to go where the treats are, don't you? The first surgery we can do is just open up the nostrils. Really quick and easy. Almost every dog of this conformation needs it. And this is super quick and easy. Pretty much any vet under the sun can do this. And that's step 1. Now, most of the dogs with this conformation need it. The next step is to trim the soft palate. And most dogs with this conformation don't need it. I'd say maybe like 40% maybe do. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's definitely not every dog. But particularly if they snore really loudly, they are more likely to need it. But realistically though, as a vet, you just look in the back of the throat when they're under anesthetic and you can kind of play around with the soft palate, and if it covers the airway excessively, you can trim it back. This procedure is a little bit more delicate. Not everybody's comfortable doing it, but certainly it's that trimming of the soft palate is very, very valuable when it's too large, and has massive benefits. So your vet may be able to do this for you, or your vet may refer your dog to somebody else who's a little bit more comfortable with this procedure. But again, this is wonderful. And if you do this as a young dog, this is probably all that needs to be done. Where you go now? Where you go? Give me love. No, you don't want love. You want treats. All right, Mickey. We're done with you. Go. Be free. And then if your dog is a little older and has some of the secondary degenerative changes, they may need additional steps in the surgery. Trimming out the everted laryngeal saccules, i.e. cutting a bit of extra tissue out the back of the throat, is often needed in those cases. So again, that's a call that your veterinarian can make on the spot in the middle of the surgery when they actually have a chance to look at the back of the throat under anesthetic. So it's not really an option it's not really optional at that point. It's just that if they're sticking out, they should be trimmed. And then guess what? Your dog gets to breathe and have an awesome quality of life. The outcomes with this kind of procedures are fantastic, well over 90% problem-free success rate. Again, the chances that your dog's going to have complications or require or not go home the same night and require a day or 2 hospitalization in ICU after the surgery are directly limited to how old the dog is when you do it. So if you want your dog to do well and you want to minimize costs and trauma, do it when your dog's young, because then they're going to do well and they're far less likely to have complications or suffer or require any extra hospitalization. So now you know everything you need to know about Brachycephalic airway syndrome and about how to make your adorable, cute, but short-faced dog's life a lot better. Please feel free to share this with your friends, share this with anybody who has a short-faced dog, You can leave your stories in the comments below, as I know you guys will anyways. And I really look forward to seeing you next time.
Well, I hope you found that to be educational and helpful. If you'd like to see more videos like this, I would really appreciate your support, which you can express by joining me on Patreon, where I have a wonderful community of patrons already, or by getting some Squish That Cat merchandise, like this t-shirt. I also have mugs and a bunch of other stuff, so please support me. I look forward to making more videos like this, and until next time, have fun with your pets, and I'll see you again.